Chairman, Doc, what do I call you? What's your preference?
Today I'm an employee of the youth. I'm going to apply for jobs for many of the people who are here today.
Okay. I'll go with Chairman, if you don't mind. Chair, looking good, as usual. Thank you so much.
Thank my wife. When I wear the ties that she chooses,
I'm really excited for this conversation because I think there's a tremendous amount of wisdom, knowledge, and insights that all of us can glean from the discussion we're about to have. My only lamentation is the shortness of time, but in the interest of brevity, let me jump right in. Chairman, you started your career off as a lawyer, and in 2017, Forbes magazine identified you as one of the top 100 greatest living business minds in their 100th anniversary issue. That's an incredible accolade for a start. And secondly, what informed and prompted that shift from a career in law to business, and was it an easy transition to make?
Well, let me start by saying it's so exciting to be amongst so many exceptionally talented and gifted young people in this room. And I really want to thank Dr. Precious, because this is all her idea, her initiative, her passion, her belief in young people, and she's driven this process to where it is. And I'm going to ask you, let's clap hands for her. And she was talking about an exciting, a very exciting secret. I don't know how she will keep it a secret, but I think there's later during the day, there's going to be a very exciting interchange between herself and somebody that really inspires young people in this country, worldwide, to realize their dreams and to pursue their dreams and what they aspire to. So I think it's going to be an exciting day. But the two things I want to overemphasize is each one of the young people who are here today, every single one of the people who are here today, you have to start thinking in terms of certain dreams, certain wishes, certain goals, whether it's career objectives. I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a businessman. The critical issue that all of us must leave here today is the total belief, absolute belief, that through hard work, determination, perseverance, you will indeed succeed. You will realize, every single one of you, in terms of where you want to go, what you want to achieve. The most successful people in the world, if you listen to their stories, they are like all of you. Poor background, humble beginnings, but with a huge amount of determination, and it has to do with hard work. So it's critically important that we leave here today with an understanding that this country, this continent, I mean, we see this all the time. I see this all the time, whether it's in New York or London or Los Angeles or China or Brazil or India, that young people like you go to university because it starts with education. And many of them start off by thinking, I either want to be an employee because I have the capacity to employ other people, and others pursue a career. But the critical thing is, we've got 300 million young people on the African continent between the ages of 15 and 25. We have to give a future, create a future for every single one of them, because if those young people do not have a future, the African continent doesn't have a future. So going to your question, yes. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. He owned a shop, a business in a rural area where even today still there's no running water. My father was an entrepreneur. So I grew up, when I was 5 years old, I was standing behind the counter in my father's businesses, selling half brown, half white, half brown, half of brown bread, half white, half of white bread. le archer, besithengisa namagwinya, angazi ukuthi basawayenza amagwinya namhlanje. Because they say that nowadays we have to eat abanye abazi ukuthi amagwinya yini. Let me tell you. Nowadays they say you've got to eat very healthy, very little oil, ne sugar. Kodwa thina hey besijabula kakhulu neretswara amagwinyale korre ba mo kitchening abapia and waiting for them even before they started being. And my father used to wake us up 5 o'clock in the morning. We would go to the Pretoria market because we had a fruit shop as well, and buy fruits and vegetables. And I used to go to Metro and later Macro, and we used to go to all of these shops, buy goods and services. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. But the big problem, I remember, every time when we came back from boarding school, because we went to a boarding school very, very far from home. And when we came back from boarding school, I told my father that, many of the young boys, I think I was 7 or 8, many of the young boys, when we come back from home, they tell me they went to Durban, because Durban was the place to be at that time. Umgababa, angazi manje. And they say they went on holiday or they visited their uncle. And I said, but we never go on holiday. I mean, when I come from boarding school, I have to stand behind the counter if I don't go to the market and do some of the buy, which we like because it would go outside. I have to stand behind the counter from 5 o'clock in the morning when people go to work, and then until 12 o'clock at night when they come back from work. So I said, I don't want to spend the rest of my life standing behind the counter. It was stressful. So I started looking for careers. And I thought, should I become a doctor? I didn't like the sight of blood. So I said, hey, I'll be a hopeless. Let me find another career. And that's how I ended up with law and became very passionate about law. But also you must understand, we were a different generation.
100%.
We were a generation where, my wife and I had to get permission from government to go to Wits University. Because during those days, black people were not allowed to go to what was a white university. So we had to write and ask for permission. And she went to medical school, I went to Wits. But of course, before that, I went to what was Swaziland then, which is now called Eswatini. And it was a very exciting learning period. And I enjoyed law, but I always knew that entrepreneurship, starting businesses, building businesses, getting partnerships. And the issue that I also learned is, two things. At a young age, I was told the customer is always right. The customer is always right. So I would stand behind the counter and somebody would say, I want Coca-Cola. And I would say to them, why don't you have Pepsi? No, I want Coca-Cola. Now, they tasted the same for me, but it taught me that follow the desires, the preferences of the customers. And what is more important is, and also focus on profitability, critically important. What we do through the Motsepe Foundation is part of the duty we have as a family. We are what we are as a family because of thousands and thousands of people and millions of people of this country, but many who believed in us, who supported us. And there were times when, when I went to America to work in America, I was amazed because there were people in the firm I practiced with who said, but, we think you've got special qualities. And I looked behind me to see who are they talking about, And they said, no, but you've got potential, you are bright. And the firm I was with, so all of us must continue to give every single young person in this country, give them a sense of confidence, a sense of self-belief, a sense of hope. Absolutely. And I've got no doubt that many of these young people will be amongst the most successful entrepreneurs, And those who want to pursue careers will be amongst the most successful careers that this country and this continent has ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Chairman, if you could go back in time and have a face-to-face DMC, what my children like to call a deep, meaningful conversation.
Is that what it means?
DMC, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm learning these terms as well, so
I thought
we're in
it
the same
meant
boat.
deep mining collaboration, but it means something.
So if you could have this face-to-face engagement with a wide-eyed and impressionable Patrice, what would you advise him critically, in terms of life advice, to do more of and less of?
You know, the most important thing, and this is, I had a meeting with the editors of the media on Saturday, and the two things that we spoke about many things, but the two things that are critical, absolutely critical, and this is the same message I would give a young Patrice as well as a young Precious, a young girl and a young boy. There will always be problems and difficulties and negativity and pessimism and lack of self-belief as a young person. You know, I was born in Orlando, in Soweto, but of course the family is from Epitori, and then we've got relatives from all over the country. But let me step aside from what I told the journalists in the context of Africa, because in the context of South Africa, there's a lot of problems. There's unemployment, there's corruption, there's crime, big problems. And we've got to deal with them and confront them and change them and fix them. But no country in the world has grown or developed or succeeded because it focused exclusively on the negative, on the pessimism, on the skeptical. You've got to step aside from that and focus on the optimistic, the ambition, the self-belief. Focus on we are, South Africans are ambitious people, extremely, extremely ambitious people. I hear this all the time. We are an aspirational nation. Aspirational in the sense that we believe that there's so much we can achieve. So what I'm saying to the young Patrice, which is the same I said to South Africa in the context of a country, because you've got to believe in your capacity to achieve at the highest level. So the young Patrice, the young Precious, the young Spongile, the young Sipho, the message I give to him is, don't let your circumstances, you live in an informal settlement at home, big problems, your mother or your father is not employed, you go to school and the school infrastructure and facilities are not very good. You live in an environment where there's high unemployment, or you are at university and there are difficult times because you don't have the resources, the skills to pursue, you don't have the resources or the support to pursue your educational success, or you finished university and have been looking for a job for quite some time. What Dr. Precious was talking about, you spend all of your years studying and believing that that I will build a future, because the truth of the matter is, indeed, absolutely correctly, education is the foundation for all success. You finish at university, but you cannot find a job. And so you've got all the reason to be demotivated and uninspired. That's reality. But you have the capacity to significantly change that reality from difficulties to lack of motivation and almost lack of self-belief, to continue to try and get a job, pursue job opportunities, and persevere. And when you do find that job, work very hard that you distinguish yourself. So when it's time to look at promotions, you are always amongst the top. if you believe that you can start your own business, try and engage those institutions. Because when I was president of business in South Africa, and in fact, even as a young boy, the biggest problem, the single biggest problem for young entrepreneurs when they want to start a new business is access to finance. Access to finance. And when they get the finance, historically the interest rates were excessive. So you spend the rest of your life paying off the loan, but you can never really pay it off so that you are the owner of the business. So in conclusion, I absolutely have no doubt whatsoever, no doubt, that many of these young people in this room, and just understand that this is not a sprint, this is not a short-term race that we are busy with. This is a long-term process, journey. It's a marathon. And you hear this all the time, but it is absolutely correct. Keep working hard, keep believing in your capacity to realize your career objectives, to become an employer, to become an entrepreneur. Keep at it. There will be moments of difficulties. In fact, there'll be moments of failure.
Yeah.
When you ask yourself, I mean, when I started my businesses, we bought mines that everybody said, but I mean, how can this guy buy mines that are unprofitable, that are marginal, that are old, that are being closed? And the president of the mine workers, they had about 350,000 workers at the time. He was a very good friend. He then went and in the newspapers, the headline of the newspapers, I know because Pressure showed me, the headline of the papers were, Patrice Motsepe buys dead dogs. Dead dogs. And, but we knew what we were doing. We knew that we had a method of running this business at the heart of which was a partnership with the workers. And we could not pay them what the big mining companies were paying them. We were paying them a little bit less, but we guarantee them, assure them, that based on profitability, they would share in the profits and they would make more money than what they earned previously. So in conclusion, there are times when you are trying to start a business or pursue a career, and you are starting it and it's failing. Or not only is it failing, many people around you and people who care for you say, but this thing is going nowhere. You shouldn't do that. Because others tried it and it didn't succeed. My message is keep looking at it, persevere, because the world is full of exceptionally successful people who, despite problems and difficulties and failures, kept at it and succeeded over time. So I'm absolutely confident that keep hope alive, be optimistic, stay positive, believe in yourself, and believe in the capacity of what you are pursuing and the potential for what you're pursuing to succeed.
Fantastic. My parting shot, Chairman, because I know that we are kind of tapering towards our time allocation. I'd like to get your take on what you think about the inflection point that we're at now, technologically speaking.
You mean
I'm talking
Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs, Mamelodi Sundowns?
Not that inflection point, no.
Oh, okay. I told you, they will all
I'm not as
win.
qualified as you to comment on that.
They'll all win. We love them all.
I wouldn't venture an opinion. But, we're at the advent of 4IR, AI, machine learning, cognitive robotics, automation, blockchain, all of these things that are happening. In your purview, is there an opportunity for Africa to leapfrog here?
This is a critical point that you raise. Sometimes you can get overwhelmed in terms of where the world is and where the world is going and what you should do, how you should position yourself. I want to leave this meeting with maybe two messages. Number one is the impact of technology on the way we live, on the way we work, on the way that we conduct our businesses and operate our businesses is astronomical. And the best tool, the best message, the best advice, and I think it's more than a message and an advice, it's the issue of we have to provide the infrastructure, the resources to allow every single young person to acquire technological skills, to get exposed to what is called the fourth industrial revolution. Because, I tell you, every time I go to Silicon Valley, every time I go to America, and every time I go to other parts of the world to see how technology, Dr. Precious is working on, there's a partnership between the Motsepe Foundation and the Milken Institute. And this is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in America. But at the heart of that is to use technology, and the first project was, it's technology and entrepreneurship. And by using technology, how can we increase productivity in agriculture? How can we use technology to make businesses more profitable and more productive? How can we use technology to provide greater access to education with COVID-19? How can we use technology to provide better quality health services, health infrastructure? How can we use technology in the context of the migration of hundreds of millions of people worldwide from the rural areas to the urban centers? 10, 15, 20 years from now, a disproportionate amount of the world population will be in the urban areas. And I think Africa will have maybe 20 to 30 of the largest urban centers in the world. So we have to teach our children at a very young age computer literacy and encourage them to focus on maths and science as well as technology and entrepreneurship. Now, the mistake the world does at times is they don't appreciate that the art is also critically important. To be a musician, to be an artist, to be a football player, to believe in painting. I mean, the next Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci is somewhere here. So we should encourage all of our young people to pursue the whole of the God-given talents, but the critical issues is the whole issue of the fourth industrial revolution. My consolation is there are people who are experts in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, all of those different technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. They themselves at times emphasize that they are learning and that this is a process that is changing all the time. But the one thing that they accept is every country in the world, all of our young people must acquire technology skills, must be part of the fourth industrial revolution. It's a long-term learning process, and use those skills to develop themselves, to develop their countries, and to make South Africa the best place to live in the world.
Fantastic. On that note, I think we'll close it off. We've come to the end of our time. Thank you so much, Chairman, Dr. Patrice Motsepe. Please, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the chat.